Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa from The Speech Practice. Today I'll be talking about the topic of speech delays in young children. So there are some red flags that we look out for in really young children, and I'll be sharing about 4 of them today. The first one would be no eye contact, or very fleeting eye contact. The second point would be no babbling or cooing as a young child. And we also see very limited imitation of motor movements. So if you ask a young child to clap, he or she would be able to copy you, but we might not see that in children who do have language delays. There might also be repetitive and stereotypical movements. So for example, playing with the wheels consistently, opening or closing a door, or playing with the doorknob consistently. And the last one would be not interested in any social enjoyment with other children. That's a great question. So a lot of children come to me because of a pronunciation difficulty or an articulation difficulty, or sometimes they may not have the words to express themselves. So a lot of the times this manifests as behavioral issues. So we see parents being frustrated, we see meltdowns in public, lying and screaming in a shopping center. For the child, they may have a low self-esteem, partly brought on because they might be very interactive and they might be very extroverted, but because they may not be able to pronounce a sound correctly. It could be their name, it could be speaking up in class. They tend to avoid those situations, and that's a real pity because they have so much to share, and sometimes they might get teased by their friends as well. Their peers may not be so forgiving, and we work with parents to help circumvent this. So we help to build up good, strong relationships, develop the self-esteem, confidence level, and to help the child blossom in a holistic environment. And it's interesting to know that synaptic development takes place between birth to 6 years old, but it peaks at around 3 years old. And that's not to say that the brain doesn't continue to develop across the lifespan. The brain does, but forming new connections with each experience explodes around between birth to 3. So capitalizing on this and providing the child with early intervention helps them to maximize their potential so they don't miss out on valuable opportunities like making friends, building their self-confidence, being able to learn vocabulary and sharing their feelings, their thoughts, and that's so much more to a child as a whole. It might be a case of denial sometimes. No parent wants their child to have a delay, especially in primary school, and we tell parents that treat the diagnosis as a guideline because children are so malleable. They have so much potential in them. What you see today may not be what you see 6 months later. And if you don't give that child this time and this opportunity to blossom, then when? So a lot of parents tell me, should I wait and see? Or should I go ahead with speech therapy? And should I compare my child with an older sibling or my friend's child? So for late talkers, sometimes it is true that they might pick up language on their own, but we will never know for sure if your child will be one of those or not. And studies have shown that children who receive early intervention do catch up with their peers, especially because brain plasticity is maximal between birth to 6 years old. So if they receive intervention earlier, the better. Intervention minimizes and in most cases decreases the need for future intervention. We work closely with parents to stimulate meaningful interactions, to create engagement, to develop intent, shared attention, and this builds social emotional reciprocity, which is the back and forth interaction that takes place in a conversation that social interaction, knowing when and how to initiate conversation, what to say. And these are all important skills that equips a child not only when they're young, but throughout life, academic prospects, as well as future and later career prospects. Typically use toys, and lots of parents think that, you're just playing with your child and you're not actually doing any work. Well, we want to make it fun for the child. Very young children may not have the attention span to sit at the table for long periods of time, so we use a combination. We use a bit of floor play. We also use some table tasks if the child's able to attend and focus. We try to follow a child-directed approach. So we use toys with directed and guided purposes. So the toy has a function. For example, if you have a car ramp at home and your child has difficulties with action words and verbs, you can use the words go. So ready, steady, go! You can pause and hold back to see if the child says anything. If he or she doesn't, model the word for the child. Go! Use a very exaggerated, very animated voice to play with the child. That's really to get his or her attention. You can also use the words up. So ready, steady, up, and then put the car up on the ramp. You can also talk about colors. A green car, red car, blue car. You can also talk about size, big car, small car. And you can also talk about attributes like fast or slow. You can play around with volume. A big car. You can also use a tiny car. So play around with your volume. Make it as animated as you possibly can. Leave your dignity at the door. Another thing is you need to be face-to-face with your child. If your child is seated on the floor, try to go up to his eye level. So that may mean you being on your tummy and then looking up at your child. You might be, if you're seated at the table, make sure that you're eye level with your child. This enables your child to look at your mouth, as well as copy your actions and mouth movements for speech. If you have a stacking block, that's great as well. You can get your child to request for each block. You could use the words more, so this is a sign for more. You could say up. You could talk about colors. You could talk about big and small. You can also talk about the designs, the patterns, the shapes on the blocks. And that would be working on the target word more. Now, there is no pressure for your child to say more. So if parents go, say more, and they go, if you don't say more, I'm not going to give you the block. Now, sometimes that backfires because the child might lose interest and walk away, and then you lose that moment of teaching. So lots of imitation. If your child doesn't copy what you say, that's okay. At another time, he or she may say it with a grandparent the next day, and as long as you're giving the child those words, processing is taking place. He or she is absorbing. If you're pointing to the object shoe, point to it, get your child's attention, and then use shoe. And the last one is say less. And start building up and expanding your child's utterances as you go along. I'm really delighted to share a few success stories. I've picked up those that I felt would impact people and parents especially. So a recent case of a success story is a girl with language impairment, and she was 5 when she came, and she had about 6 to 8 months of language intervention. And I'm really proud to share that parents, we were delighted that parents sent us a card with a little gift, especially because it was a joint effort. When I went on my maternity leave, my colleague stepped in to take over their intervention, and it was a great synergy between both practitioners as well as the child. And I just thought I'd read out what the parent said. And she says, "We still remember the day we walked in your clinic. And today when we leave, we are standing with a confident, cheerful, very talkative, self-assured child." And I never really expected to hear that from the parent, and it just shows the spillover effects. We're not just focusing on vocabulary, sentence structures, writing, narrative writing. It spills over to psychosocial effects, and To know that we helped a child and made a difference in that child's life will be something that we will remember forever. So the initial consultation will comprise of an oral motor evaluation, speaking with the parent, as well as evaluating their language skills, their understanding, ability to express themselves, their play skills, and finally we end up with the recommendations. We had about 14 months of intervention, and parents said, I'll just read out some highlights. Said, our son caught up with his language and he's praised my son caught up with his language development and no longer requires these services. Currently at the age of 4, he is often praised for his language, skills, and vocabulary. So we really appreciate the parent for sharing that, because we would never know, and we don't always have the privilege of following up with the parent thereafter. And that's him with me in sessions. We saw a noticeable improvement in Ethan's vocabulary. He started saying only basic nouns in the start, like mommy, daddy, and some body parts, and now he's able to start using he's able to string sentences together and understanding the meaning of simple verbs. Parents just mentioned that they're really grateful for the advice given, and they still use it till today. And that's Ethan. Is a really extroverted boy. The only thing holding him back was his fluency or stuttering. She's one of the best parents I could ever have. So she's French, and this little boy had 2 languages. He spoke both French as well as English. And parents said, I followed diligently the instructions that Lisa gave, and in 3 months, approximately the stuttering went down from a rating of 7 to a rating of 1. So to clarify, a rating of 10 would be very severe stuttering, and a rating of 1 would be no stuttering at all. He went back to speaking English and French without any problem. I think tackling the problem early with a rational method really helped. So this just goes to show that early intervention is effective. Once again, I'm Dr. Lisa from the Speech Practice. Thank you so much for allowing me to share these valuable insights. I hope it was beneficial for you.